ahead, people, is the dark zone. You're not going to believe this, but we call it the dark zone because, duh, it's dark up there. Now, currently, we're in the twilight zone. This is nothing like the TV show or the movie. This is simply just the zone that's in between the light zone and the dark zone, just like it is outside of the end of day. Now, if an animal were to chase something in here or seek shelter from a storm, this is about as far as it's going to go because it knows it won't find any food further than this. And it knows, duh, it's really dark up there. Now, believe it or not, you're actually traveling down an ancient underground river that used to flow through here. And the limestone is a very water-soluble rock. So the force of the water flowing through here is what helped carve out the caverns within the cave. Now, I don't know if you've been dripped on yet or not, but if you have, that is how all the formations form. Matter of fact, last summer when I started, we were in a drought and it was so dry, you could do this whole tour and not get dripped on. If you go about 50 feet and not get dripped on, you've got lucky right now, because the cave is actually in a very active state right now. So what happens is that water works its way down through the surface and it dissolves some of the calcium in the limestone. Then it mixes with the water and works its way down through the porous rock. And if you look right up here, this is the beginning of what we call soda straw. You've got some right over the trailer, right above your head there. If you want to see older ones, look over here halfway between the driver's side of the trailer and the wall of the cave where I'm shining, highlighting this tan stuff. What happens is, those are soda straw. They're just like a straw, thin-walled and hollow, and that water drips down through those tubes until it gets about 8 inches. And then that calcium or the mineral in that water seals up the tube and no longer can the water drip. It has to start oozing down the outside, creating that tan formation there. Or like the ones back here off the driver's side of the trailer at the back. And we'll learn what all these are called up at the formation stop right up ahead. Now, I want to draw your attention to this patch of dirt over here. They've been giving tours in here since 1867. After the Great Depression in the 20s, money was tight and people really didn't have money for tickets to the cave. So the owner was resourceful. He planted about 6 or 8 different gardens down here with mushrooms. Because mushrooms is a fungus and does not require photosynthesis from the sun to grow. He'd sell those mushrooms to farmers markets and grocery stores, and between what ticket sales he sold, he's able to generate some cash for his family during that hard time. Now, I don't know if you noticed or not, but that Jeep out there when we were coming in, did you notice it had wooden seats on it? Do you know the bad thing about driving a vehicle with wooden seats? Splinters, of course, but you get bored awful easy. Remember, you're stuck with me for another hour, okay? Now, we're going to move on up to the dark zone. Don't worry, we're not driving through the dark. I turn lights on and off with photocells and spotlights so we leave the dark in the natural cave state. As we pull forward, I want to draw your attention to this classroom over here. That's open to schools in a 100-mile radius. And later in spring, kids get to come down here and do an underground cave adventure for their field trip. Pretty cool stuff, huh? Here we go. Forms in layers. If you look over here on the passenger side, you can see how it has formed in layers. It's just like traveling down those highways where you travel through a road where they go on the road through the hill. As you travel on that road through the hill, you see that same formation inside that hill. Now look at the formations right above the trailer. There's those soda straws we talked about. They have reached their 8-inch limit. We're starting to get the growth on the outside. Those are the beginning of stalactites, just like these ones over the Jeep. Now, we're saying stalactite with the C. It's hanging tight to the ceiling. Now, I want you to look at this formation here outside the driver's side of the trailer. If it looks a bone color, the reason why is because that's made of 100% calcium. That's why it is a bone color. But notice it is dripping water. And that's how all these formations grow, remember. That water's dripping and some of that mineral stays up there on that formation, allowing that stalactite to grow towards the ground. But that mineral water is dripping down on this one on the ground, the driver's side of the trailer. The one on the ground is called a stalagmite with the G. As it's on the ground, and one day it might grow up and touch the one from the ceiling. When those two do connect, it then becomes a cave collar or a cave pillar. And people, I've got a massive one right around the corner to show you. Now, this other formation just to the side of that is cave column cave drapery or cave curtain. And the way that forms, you can see the ceiling is not always level, so the water can't drip straight down. Sometimes it has to travel down an angle, and that's where the mineral deposits create that cave curtain effect. Now, the last formation I'm going to talk about is over here on the driver's side of the cave. Sometimes the water comes down so fast it has to flow over the edge, and that's what's called a flow stone. But if you notice the reddish tint to that, the reason why is because it dissolves iron in the surface upstairs. So with that being said, depending on what minerals dissolved upstairs will dictate what color the formations are down here in the cave. Now, I can't tell you how old the cave is. I cannot tell you how the formations are. But I can tell you it takes 100 years for one cubic inch of growth. To give you guys an idea how long that is, y'all come back here in 100 years, and if I'm your guide, I'll buy you tickets, and we'll come down and do an exploratory party to check this thing out. But you know what? It's going to look pretty much the same as it does today, only an inch taller, maybe drier, maybe wetter. But in all reality, if you all can remember what this looks like in 100 years, remind me not to torque you off anytime soon. Now, with that being said, due to a big mistake, right up around the corner, I do have one formation here I can tell you exactly how old it is. So, let's go up and find out about the big mistake. We're not going to talk about the big mistake yesterday. You do not take your zero count in a muddy ditch to mow. You will never get out of that ditch. That's a big mistake. Here we go.
What does that mean?
I don't know. Put your phone thing on there. Hold the phone thing on there. Put your phone thing on.
Oh.
The next one, okay?
Yeah.
Does anybody see anything that may not actually belong in a cave? Yes.
Wires.
It looks like the wires from like your TV when the wires connect.
That's a good guess,
It
but
looks
that's
like
actually the
a
wrong
pole.
answer. That antenna is just here for emergency communication. Actually, it says well casing. So about 81 years ago, a farmer put some cattle up here and a farm, and he needed some water. So he got a hold of the owner because he knew there was a cave down here. So they got together and did some mathematical equations on where to drill the well. They thought they had the right spot. They start drilling down, they get down 90 foot. The drill bit fell into the opening of the cave. So they came down here to see what kind of damage they did. Fortunately, it was over here next to the wall, not out in the open. Either way, they couldn't leave that open because that would damage the ecology of the cave. So being now, but wait a minute. According to their calculations, it's supposed to be 10 foot on the other side of that wall. Come on, people, this is the Ozarks, home of the hillbillies. Too bad they didn't have access to Jethro Bodine and his sniping skills from the Beverly Hillbillies. They would have screwed up like that. But that's my own opinion. The being was over here on the way, the owner decided to go on down. They went 50 foot, and that's what supplied water to the farm.
What's this guy talking
Now, the
about?
farm cattle are all gone. They no longer use that. This has been capped off. By the way, this used to be a 6-inch black steel water pipe. Now, I want to draw your attention to the formation coming off the back side of the ceiling down the wall. That is baby cave curtain, like we learned in the last stop. And if we measure from the ceiling down, we're over 3/4 of an inch wide, so we're right on track to get that 1 cubic inch of growth in 1 year. And you know what? I just saved you guys a trip back here in 100 years. Now, if you see the string hanging down, that is not silly string, that is oak tree roots from an oak tree 90 foot above us. And those roots have come down along that well casing looking for water and nutrients. And just like this pipe, they're getting calcified. By the way, this is the formation I can tell you how old it is. If it took 81 years for that calcite to build up, how many years did it take for this massive formation here? This is that big cave column I told you I was going to show you. Look at the elaborate cave curtain. This is baby cave curtain. I mean, how many hundreds of thousands of years did it take forever to grow. As a hillbilly would say, it took a real, very long time. Now, where are we at underneath the ground? We've actually come underneath the parking lot you guys parked in on. If you came in from Springfield, we went back down the road you came in on. We're on the other side of the road from Fantastic Caverns, going underneath that hill. Right now, we're over 100 foot below the surface of the ground. Now, we're getting ready to move up to the light box. That's where we're going to get to experience the total complete darkness and the different lighting system we've used here in the cave. Now, when we get up there, I'm going to ask everybody to shut down your displays for a little bit so we can enjoy the darkness. And then as soon as I flip the lights back on, you can rip those things out and start ripping off pictures again.
Okay.
Here we go.